Hi there, this is Alvin, and welcome to the Kickstart Commerce podcast, where we share search marketing and domain investing strategies to help grow your business. In today's episode, our guest is none other than the one and only Mr. Braden Pollock, heavy on the Mr. Please, known by most as an angel investor, founder of Legal Brand Marketing, and a longtime domain investor and contributor to the domain industry. Today, Braden and I discuss the method to his madness pertaining to his latest oneword.com buying spree. We also talk 2021 and 2022 domaining trends and insights that investors should consider. Braden then gets me hip on the evolution of Clubhouse and how it's growing the domain industry and opening the door to ways of new monetization strategies. Lastly, I also uncover Braden dabbling in the land of cctlds, and we finally talk about brandable and geo-service domain buying and selling strategies. So with that, Braden Pollock, what's cooking? Good looking.
Just living my best life over here.
Living the best life. Still masked up?
Yeah, I mean, when I go out in public, it's funny, my neighbors are coming over for dinner tonight, and that's what they asked. Are masks mandatory? They've been vaxxed. I'm half vaxxed. I get my next vax on Thursday, 2 days from now. What's today?
You and me both. Yeah, today's Monday, and so we both get vaccinated for round number 2, final round, and it'll be the 29th. Yeah, so we're recording this. It's April 26th. Apparently, both of us don't even know that it's Monday.
I'm getting Moderna, so on Thursday morning, so I plan on being sick on Friday. I calendared out.
I'm going with Pfizer, so we'll see. I will say that the first round left a square on my arm, a perfect little square that feels like sandpaper. So, I don't know. I was like, man, I only blinked my eyes, but maybe I got chipped. I don't know.
It's possible. They say that Bill Gates is trying to track everybody and take over our brains. So maybe that's what it is.
I have nothing up there, so
he can have it.
he can have it. It's rent free. Go ahead, take it. So, man, what's been going on in the land of domains and domain investing, developing, leasing, and all that good stuff?
Development, I don't know. I can't really report on that. I do have a team that develops names, legal names, but honestly, other than buying the names, I got no part of the development.
No development, he says. Well, you've been on a tear lately, purchasing one-word domains for sure.
Oh, yeah. That is the truth.
He said that is the truth, and it will set you free.
Yeah, I have been buying a lot. I just feel like, the values just keep going up and up and up. I mean, I've been in this industry for 15 years, and the values have never gone down. Right? I mean, at the top tier. I'm not talking about like the Chinese market and those kinds of things, but just for the most part, domains in general have gone up, and the top tier just continue to climb. So I've kind of refocused on the higher value names.
Gotcha. Now, when you say go up, like, what do you mean by go up? Are we talking about percentages, 5%, 10%, 20, 30%? Like, what are you seeing that made you go, it's time to buy?
I would say that names that I bought, let's say 3 years ago for 30 grand, now they're 100. I just think that there's less inventory. And, they're getting scooped up by people like me that put high prices on them. And they're just it's hard to pick up the premium names. I mean, look, I know of a name that was just purchased today, not by me. And I'm not gonna say what it is, but it was $250,000 wholesale. And,
wow.
and I know of other names that, I just bought a name for 300 grand wholesale. I know of a couple names that are over 500,000 recently. Wholesale, and they're just, they're top tier, and they will sell for 7 figures, so no question. But, the end users are paying more and more as well.
That is true. I guess this year, if I am thinking correctly, I think there's only been one major sale that's been reported, I guess, on DN Journal. I want to say it was like Christmas.com or something like that. it was like over 3 million. But other than that, everything else, I mean, it's definitely been high six figure. But I mean, I guess are we just going to see these things like, for the most part, you look at something like a Christmas.com and you'll say, okay, I mean, is that wholesale? Is that retail? Obviously, I'm going to say it's probably retail, but like you're saying those names that you bought for 30 have jumped up now. So what's to say that something like a Christmas can't jump from 3 to 6?
Yeah, well, a few years ago, maybe it was 1.2 million, right? And now it's 3 times that.
That's true.
But I can tell you that there have been many seven-figure sales this year. There's many that I know of. Most of them don't get reported. Most. I mean, and I've been told that, actually, I was told by escrow.com handles at one point handled at least one seven-figure sale a week. And that was a few years back. So it's probably increased from now. And I was told that 8-figure sales happen once a month, and it's going to be more now. We just don't hear about it. Look, anytime you've got like a super great keyword that transfers from one party to another.
Right.
Look, any short single syllable one word sale, assume it's 7 figures. Single syllable, like those are key. I don't mean like an obscure word, but like a really good punchy word. 7 figures.
So something like Blade.
Blade was 7 figures. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't. Blade, I think, sold cheap. I think it sold for $500,000.
Really?
Yeah, they got a steal out. But I mean, I wouldn't have sold that cheap.
That is interesting. So then where does that put us in terms of when you start, because that's a one, like you said, that's a one word. But then we start talking about 3L, 4L, like especially 3L. I mean, you're probably in every bit of high six-figure land.
Every once in a while, one sells cheap. And it's because somebody needs the cash. There was a 3L. It was last Thursday, I think it was. It was a 3L, popped up on Cedo. I went to buy it. I literally clicked buy. And I hadn't clicked the wire button, like the payment button. And so it didn't go through. And I thought, let me just look this up first. I looked it up and I thought I knew who the owner was. So I texted him to ask if it was his. And I was waiting for, it was in the evening. And I thought I'll give it till the morning. That domain, so I shouldn't have done that. I mean, I'm still pissed about it. But that domain sold, it was not on Cedo for 12 hours, not even 12 hours. And it was sold. And if I had pulled the trigger, it would have been maybe a couple of hours. And I wish I had.
So then, I mean, because it is April the 26th, 2021. So we're now just a little over a year into COVID. So what all has changed in the last year that you've seen in regards of, the domain industry? Obviously, we've seen things go up, but is that upward trajectory, are we still on par for seeing something, continue to go up as far as 2021, 2022 are concerned?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that we've seen, particularly at the lower end of the market, and nothing negative about lower end. Most names sell in that $2,500 to $3,500 range, right? So I'm referring to that. I'm referring to the bulk of the sales.
5,000 less.
Right. That's what I'm referring to. Those names on the wholesale market have gone through the roof, and I think that's driven by a couple of factors. One is everybody and their mother realized last year they need to get online. Whether it's businesses that really didn't have an online presence, right? A yoga studio that didn't have a website, and then they're like, well, I guess I need to teach, online. So, they built a website. So it's that, as well as all the people that are at home, not working, that have extra time, that have stimulus checks, and, looking for some place. They pull the money out of the market maybe, and they're looking for a place to invest, and they found domain investing. And when they see a name that, they determine it's a $5,000 name, they're like, well, Jesus, I can pay $2,500 and double my money for like that.
Right.
Easy.
Right.
But what they don't realize is sell-through rate and, reg fees. And you have to have a lot of these names for this to pencil out, right? So when we see a name that we think is worth $5,000, we know with experience that we need to pay 500 for it.
Right.
Roughly. But these people don't, right? Or maybe they'll spend 4,000 thinking they can flip it quickly for 5,000 and it's a great return. And look, a 25% return in the real world would be fantastic, right? I bought a domain a couple of days ago, a .io, for $360. The next day, I had an offer, and and it's certainly another domain investor that missed the close of the auction, offered me 500. Well, of course I said no, right? Like, why would I only take a 40% return in 24 hours? That's crazy, right? Domain investors don't do that. But the rest of the universe would be like thrilled to get a 40% ROI,
right,
in a day. But it's $140, so I'm gonna wait till I get retail for it. So they look at these spreads and they think they can get it easy, and it's if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it, right? It takes years of experience to pick them right, to buy them right. You make the money on the purchase and not the sale. So I think that's a long explanation to get to. I think that these new investors have really driven up the wholesale market because it's easy to find, GoDaddy auctions. And I think that's going to simmer down. This is my opinion. I think that as people get back to the office and after they've gone through the stimulus checks and after they realize this isn't as easy as I thought because I haven't sold, I bought these 20 names and I haven't sold any of them.
Renewals.
Right. I think we're going to start seeing that, and we're going to see expiring auction. We're going to see these names expiring. We're going to see them get listed on DNWE and name liquidate, et cetera, NameJet maybe, or they're going to wholesale them off, on Name Pros or whatever, and they're going to get out of the space. So I see that happening, but because it has grown, the wholesale market has increased so rapidly over last year, much more rapidly than the retail market, and the retail market has grown. So I feel like that's going to there's going to be a correction coming in the wholesale market at that low end. But now back to the top tier, it just keeps going up and up and up. I don't see that changing.
Gotcha. And that's more likely because of the quantity of the quality of names that are available, or those that are going off the market, as Andrew Rosner would say, off the market forever.
Which is a misnomer, by the way. It's not off the market forever. It sounds good.
I guess everything has a price.
Well, it has a price. And look, the names that I'm buying, these one-word premium.coms, there were companies on it. But, they've been registered for 25 years, right? These are names that a company is using it, and then they went out of business, or the person retired and sold off this asset, or the name got gobbled up by a big company and 12 years ago, and then they don't need the domain anymore and they've sold it off, like angel.com, which Dave Evanson just sold. I actually spoke to the owners, the general counsel for the corporation that bought it, I think 11 years ago. It was a software company. Angel was a software company. And it was acquired by Cadence, or I don't remember, one of the software companies. And, they finally sold off. I talked to them and they said they needed 7 figures. And of course, I wasn't going to spend 7 figures. And then they ultimately got it. But, it's been a software company forever.
Right. And how long did it take them to get it?
To
get that 7 figures?
Well, they just put it on the market. So it took that. I'm sure that they fielded a lot of inquiries from people like me, right? Because I contacted them. I'm sure I wasn't the first person and may not have been the last. But ultimately, they decided, since they got so many inquiries, let's engage with a broker. And so they got Dave at CETO to take it on, and he sold it for $2 million quickly, within a matter of weeks, by the way.
Wow. And so then in that case, now obviously we don't know why they sold, but what would, what would make a company want to put that name out there?
Well, they sold it because they had gobbled up Angel Software something like 11 years ago, and they had their own brand. It was just a product of theirs And so they no longer were using that brand and discovered that it's worth a couple of $1 million. They have this kind of hidden asset that they're not utilizing. Might as well liquidate it.
But that
Even though it's a big company.
But Braden, that doesn't make sense to me to a certain extent, or make it make sense. Like when I think about angel.com, you're like, hey, okay, a little over $2 million it sells for. And then I juxtapose that to like voice.com. Like, how in the world do we go from 30 million to 2 million? And both seem to be pretty good names.
Okay, so voice.com,
really good names.
While I think voice.com is very, very valuable because we're now accessing the internet via voice, right? So that's huge, right? The Alexas of the world. So it is a very valuable name. That said, it's still an anomaly, right? Because it was in strong hands.
Sure.
You know, Michael Saylor, right? He had this company, publicly traded company, and he didn't need the cash. He's, you know what? Don't even talk to me until you get to 20 million bucks or whatever it was. And, you know, because the rest of us would have cashed out a long time ago. Now, if voice.com was mine, I definitely wouldn't have sold it for 6 figures. I would have held out for, you know, well into the 7 figures because of the power of that particular domain.
Right.
Definitely an industry that's growing by leaps and bounds. No question. But it's an anomaly because you've got somebody with really strong hands and you had a buyer with a crap ton of money.
Right.
They had crypto money. And there's all these brand new crypto billionaires, right? That are spending money on domains. And, you know, thank God for these guys because we're selling our names.
Right.
So it was that kind of confluence of events that made that happen. And then you've got angel.com and all the other premium names that are selling in the kind of low to mid 7 figures, which is much, much more common. We just don't hear about it.
Right. I don't know. It seems to me like I can't make, you know, I think you said what Blade sold or something like that. Even though I pulled that out of just kind of thin air, but Blade sold, Angel sells, Voice sells, and I can't make sense of any of it other than, hey, they sold for a lot of money. Now, and kind of switching up here, in terms of the last time that we talked, we have this little software or rather a platform that has become known to most of everybody in the domain industry called Clubhouse.
Heard of that?
My gosh, we all got sucked in. So, like, tell me, I mean, what's been your involvement with Clubhouse? Obviously, we were all on there, what seemed like every day. Yeah. And it's been, a good 3 months, 4 months, maybe 5 months? No, 4 or 5 months now. And so what's your involvement with Clubhouse on a daily basis today?
Yeah, I don't spend nearly as much time as I did when it was new. Just because there's a little bit of burnout. I have a tendency to go on there just for the domain rooms. I mean, I certainly could go into participate in other topic conversations, which there's everything under the sun. And I've bounced around a little bit, but I mostly go on there to talk to domain folks. A lot of the same people. So, you know, it's nice to catch up with them every once in a while, but I don't need to talk to them for 3 hours every day.
What do you make of it in terms of industry? I mean, has it impacted the industry? I think it's definitely my personal take on it, rather, before you answer, is that Clubhouse is certainly brought about auction fever. And I know that is a bit of a hot word because to a certain extent, it's like, you know, they don't want people using the word auction on there, but let's call it what it is. I mean,
we can use it.
Right. I'm like, if I'm like, listen, it's an auction. I don't care if I'm on there or not. You're auctioning off domains. That's what you're doing. And so, like, was that a surprise for you in terms of just kind of what's unfolded?
No, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise. You know, commerce will find its way. You know, people are always going to figure out a way to monetize everything, and more power to them. Honestly, I think it's a good idea. for them to run auctions. The auction started where it was just, a gentleman's agreement, and the person running the auction was just doing it for fun and didn't make any money doing it. Maybe you buy them a coffee. And then it moved to, they built a site, and there's a platform, you submit the name and they make a commission, and which is the way it should be. Now, what is going to happen, I'm almost certain of it, I don't have any verifiable proof, but I think what's going to happen is Clubhouse is going to launch an auction type platform that will, so instead of you going off site to run your auction, they'll have tools built in, and then they'll take a couple of points of all the transactions, or you're going to pay some sort of membership fee or some such thing. I wouldn't be surprised, right? I mean, that just kind of makes sense. I'm sure domains are not the only things being auctioned off. There's like the strip club rooms where you pay and then refresh, right? And people, you see naked photos.
Wait, what?
Oh,
in Clubhouse? I missed that one. I missed that one. I'm like, wait.
Okay. Have you seen people type PTR?
No. Well, see, I hadn't been on Clubhouse, man. No. It's probably been a good month or so.
Okay. So PTR is pull to refresh, right? So you pull down and then that'll refresh the page. And so if you have paid a woman, a person, to remove clothing, she takes a picture, she uploads it as a profile photo, and then pull the refresh, and you get that picture. Commerce will always find its way.
Who? Okay, who? I mean, that's like mind blowing.
So
I'm like,
so that's the thing
of this stuff.
And but beats me. And I mean, I don't know what else, if there's other voice stuff, or I don't know if there's like a talk dirty to me room, or I don't know what, but
there was, I believe, or it may have been adult related domains. I do know that there was that was,
but I'm talking about commerce. So whenever there's a transaction, so whether it's an auction or like a strip club room, Clubhouse needs to monetize. And why wouldn't they say, all right, look, we'll give you the tools to do this within the app. Instead of trusting that person, you can do it right here on the app. And I think there's tipping now, right?
Right.
Yeah. So they're already building it in.
Correct.
Right? They're already building it in. So you can tip on the app. And I don't know if Clubhouse is taking a piece of that yet, but they will if they're not.
Probably.
Right. So they're going to build these tools so that you can transact on the app, and then they're going to take a sliver of it. It's inevitable. So I think the people that, there's Mike Domamba, and there's Krista Gable. They're doing a great job. Bruce, they're doing a good job with these auctions, and it's good that they got in early. And I think Chris is the first one to do it.
Well, I thought it was Bruce and Hal that did the first auction.
I don't know. I thought it was Krista.
Yeah, I think it was Bruce and Hal that did it, and then from there
she was doing the rooms like early on, where she'd do 24/7 room, and she just always had it on, and really brought the domain community. And I'm sure inevitably, we would have ended up there, but she started those initial rooms super early, and so props to her for doing that.
Right.
And then there's the evolution, and everybody else, there's other rooms and auctions, but the thing is to get in early, to start doing it, even though you can't monetize it, and then let it evolve into something you can monetize, and then these guys that Krista and the others that are doing these auctions, they make a commission, as they should. Now, I think that why not have an auction on another platform? No reason why not. But in addition to that it's a whole new audience, because the people that started buying names or are buying names in these Clubhouse rooms, they didn't know about GoDaddy auctions or NameJet or Snap Names or DNW. They
didn't know. They didn't even know domaining.com.
Right. So I think it helped to bring in more investors, and I think the pie is big. It's like there's room for everybody. And I think there's nothing wrong with expanding the inventory by bringing in new investors. It's like when Josh and Josh launched DNWE. Did we need another liquidation platform? Sure, why not?
Apparently.
Because they're selling names.
All right. Apparently. I mean, they're doing pretty good. And who was out first? Was it DNWE or Name Liquidate or
Name Liquidate? But Name Liquidate is more like, I think, GoDaddy closeouts.
Right.
Even though it's not, I think it's
not curated, is it? I don't think so.
It is not curated, and I think they start at $9.99, $1,000,
right,
and go all the way down to $9. So it's a Dutch auction, right? It's reverse,
right?
And a lot of names sell at the low end. I mean, I don't know what percentage. I'd just be speculating. And I like Name Liquidate because I use Epic, and I have my account set up, so anything that I'm not going to renew automatically goes to Name Liquidate.
So you catch a few that you just like, oh, well, who knew? That's sold. Okay.
Well, $9 is better than no dollars.
And that does make the cash register ring. That does make the cash register
and it's
ring.
not always $9. I mean, I've sold names for higher than that too.
Right.
Which makes me think maybe I shouldn't have dropped that name.
Yeah.
And maybe I would have done better putting on DNWE or NameJet or something. I don't know. I mean, I haven't tested. It's also hard to test a name because it's this, every name is different.
Definitely. Now, let me ask you this, though. Here's something that is kind of struck me as odd about Clubhouse and the auctions in general. And it's the notion of being in those rooms and submitting names, but being on with everyone else and knowing that everyone else is hearing the name. And let's say it's a mediocre or not so good name. You say the name, but then somebody goes out and hand registers something even better than what you said. So, like, how do you feel about that?
You say a name and then somebody hand registers a similar name. I mean, doesn't that happen anyway?
Right, but it's different. It would be different if it were like you and I just talking in a restaurant. Somebody overhears us, they go do it. But knowingly walking into a room and you're auctioning a name, it's like, I look at it, I go, man, I don't know that I'd really want to put my name out there in the auction and not have done my homework to know, okay, hey, there are alternative options that exist that are better in value or even in just the rolling off the tongue, if you will, in terms of pronunciation.
Right. No, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. But isn't that kind of you file that under buyer beware?
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're going to bid on a name, GoDaddy or NameJet or what have you, I mean, the amount of research you do is on you. You do your diligence, and that means checking checking trademarks and checking other extensions and checking how many other extensions have been developed, how many extensions are owned by investors, right? I mean, there's all the research that we would do as a matter of course. And in an auction, you can do that or not do that. That's up to you, just like any other auction. Most of these auctions now, the names are listed. So in Krista's case, she's got nameshoppers.com. The inventory that's going to be on auction is listed on that site. And I think the other guys do too. I just don't know their sites offhand.
Right.
But Krista had texted me a little while ago, so I remember. So, because she's out there, she hustles, right? I got to give it up to her. I mean, she's a hustler.
Yeah.
She hasn't been in this industry for very long, but she knows everybody, and she's out there hustling. And God bless her. So she's listed everything on Name Shopper, so you can look at it and see what it is, before you bid, right? Mm. So that kind of deals with the issue of the auction and what it sounds like and not giving you a lot of time, which is what it used to be a few months ago.
Right.
And then we would ask people to spell it. The auctioneer would spell the name.
Oh, and we've had a number of stories in Clubhouse rooms about names that we thought that we bought.
Yeah.
and I'm just going to leave those at that.
What was that word that just sold that was like immaculate or something like that? It started with
no, it was Immortals.
Immortals, right. And it was started with an L, not an I.
and it started with an L and not an I. And the person who purchased it did not know it until it got pushed to their account.
So there are problems with the visual medium as well.
Exactly. So
do your diligence.
Do your diligence, and that's been, to me, that's been the safeguard, and it makes me wonder about just where Clubhouse is going to land or position itself in terms of. I mean, it seems like it is bringing more people in. I will give it that, but how long is this going to last? I mean, will we get the same thing out of Twitter Spaces? I don't know.
Or Facebook or
Right.
I think Slack. I mean, there's everybody's launching voice, and the funny thing is it's all voice now, and voice.com, we talked about it earlier, didn't work. They bought the best possible domain and it failed. They're pivoting now to like NFTs.
So what makes this different? Like, what makes Clubhouse different than voice.com?
Well, I think, there's a couple things. One is, it's been out in beta like a year longer than everybody thinks.
Right.
Okay. it launched in like the summer of 2019 to a group in San Francisco. It was like Bay Area. It was the, Andreessen Horowitz and all those guys, right? The VCs. And then they were inviting people one at a time, and the celebrities. And so that was the initial hook. It was you wanted to be in that group because it was a bunch of like legit influencers, not Instagram influencers, but like legit influencers,
like movers and shakers in real life.
Exactly. And so you wanted to be in there talking to these people, and it wasn't a room of 5,000 people. It was a room with 12 people, and you can get in and talk to them, talk to like legit influencers. And so it started there. And then when they started opening it up, it really had a lot of momentum and a simple interface. You set up your profile with a lot of information, a little information, and then boom, you jump into a room and there's like, 30 other people there talking to some cool, whomever, or a topic that's of interest. Now it's like hundreds of people in a room. I mean, even a domain room, you could be 200 people in a domain room and 3 rooms going on at once. But simple interface. And now it won't be so simple soon as they add a whole bunch of other crap to it. But it's like, like you sign up for Facebook, you've got to connect to your school and your friends and your work, and you get and then start connecting to other people, and then it evolves, right? It takes time for the thing to bake.
Right.
And Twitter, you kind of learn how Twitter works and start following people and get followed back, and kind of have to learn how that works. Clubhouse is pretty simple. You touch the room you like, and then all of a sudden people are talking. So I think it's just a good product. It's like, why did iPhones like take over the world? Because they're intuitive, and the apps that work are intuitive.
To a certain extent, domain names that are intuitive just work. And so tell me this, like, where do you see Clubhouse in the domain industry going from here? Obviously, we have these auctions, but to me, I mean, and there have been a few, who was it? Andrew Alleman. He's had a couple of shows. I think Domain Sherpa has done a few shows, but do you see?
I was on the Sherpa shows in Clubhouse.
And like, how did it go? Because I wasn't on.
I think it went well. I mean, we did it like in the other Sherpa. We just did it on Clubhouse. And so we had a lot of listeners that were live. So the whole thing is live, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, they recorded it and then played it, and distributed it like they would normally distribute Sherpa. But we were able to bring people on stage to ask questions, which gave it a new kind of fresh twist. So I liked that aspect of it.
Gotcha. You think that this is something that's going to stick around?
I don't think Clubhouse is going to fail. I don't know. Well, 2 things. One, it's about to double in size because once they launch it on Android.
Right.
I mean, I don't remember the market. I think iOS is like 40% of the market, and Android's like 60%, or that it's roughly that kind of split. So a lot more people just assume you're going to get twice as many people,
right?
As soon as they release Android.
Right. Now, with that said, though, will we relive some of the things that we've already lived through with the Android users coming aboard in terms of domain industry, people coming in, people getting excited, they may overbuy or make uneducated purchases? You think that'll happen? Again?
That is possible, but it's not totally new. Right. So
True.
now when somebody gets in, it's like, look, we've been doing this for 6 months. Let me tell you how it works. Right. And also at the very beginning, and probably still now, a lot of snake oil salesmen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. A lot of self-proclaimed experts out there. And even in the domain world, there were some quote unquote experts that were like, who is this guy? Never heard of him before. Not experts. And that's not sustainable. You can't be a self-proclaimed expert or something and it lasts very long.
Right.
You're going to get called out.
Pretty quick.
And that goes for, all the other industries. I'm sure there's a lot of self-help gurus and what have you across Clubhouse and every possible conceivable, industry. And so, I think those folks have kind of fallen by the wayside. And so when Android users come on, there's going to be less, I think, of that because there's already like these established rooms and established Clubhouse influencers with air quotes. Some of those people will jump on and try to be an expert themselves, but that doesn't mean they'll be quite successful because the early adopters have already done it. But I'm just speculating.
He said Braden has broke out his crystal ball. He's telling it all.
Well, predictions are tough, especially about the future. Said Yogi Berra.
Hey, you either get it wrong or you get it right. That we do know. That we do know. Oh my goodness. And so Braden, how long do you think you'll be on this buying spree, my man?
Till my money runs out.
That is the truth as well.
I don't know. It's funny. I was just thinking about that this weekend. I'm not.
Which one? That you're buying or your money is running out?
No. How long I'm going to buy it at this clip? I'm not slowing down yet. As a matter of fact, I'm paying more and more for these names. The names I was comfortable buying it from 30 to 50, and then I got comfortable buying it 100. Now I'm buying it at 150. It just keep going up. But these names, when you spend 150, 200 grand, it's a 7-figure name.
Right.
And that's really what I'm looking for. And I'm not necessarily shying away from the smaller names because I'm a low 6-figure hit is a good hit.
Right.
And I'm still dabbling. I'm dabbling with IOs, and I picked up a GG the other day. No, I'm sorry, I picked up an AG the other day. My first .ag.
Yeah, I actually did a interview with a gentleman, Blessing Bofu, who runs. It's actually called, the organization's called Church Mag, but they did a clever hack of churchm.ag. So it's Church Mag. But yeah. You don't see too many. You don't see too many of any of the .ags. So
they've been selling because it's short for agriculture,
right? But I guess so. Like, what makes you as an investor want to get in? Because you're typically been, I'm assuming, .com most of your journey. But why start to dabble in the land of .io, .ag, or .vc, or whatever the ccTLD may be of your choice?
I don't do too much of it, but you got to kind of keep your eye on the next thing, right? So if I had an opportunity to pick up a huge portfolio of premium .ios. It was like $1,000 or $1,500 each, and I was like, "Wait, no way! It's way too expensive." If I would have pulled the trigger on that,
be a happy man,
right? And this was like last year.
Wow.
And those they've gone through the roof. Those names, investors are paying like 10 grand for a premium.io now.
Jeez.
because they're selling for mid to high 5 figures. So, I dabble with it, and I'll dabble with other things. If you've got also, if you have a weak TLD, the strength of the SLD can carry it.
True.
Right. Which a lot of people don't talk about, but that's really what it comes down to. So, if it was, I don't know, pick some random extension, .link, not great, but what if it was poker.link?
Got it.
Betting.link or sex.link or free.link, right? Like any super valuable SLD will carry a .link or a .cc or a whatever. As a matter of fact, like Logan does that.
Right.
He'll take a super strong SLD, like I think he did with Casino or something, and found some random TLD that nobody ever heard of and hand registered it and sold it. Right. So, that works too. So .ag, and I don't remember if it's Anguilla or something. I don't remember what the TLD
I believe you are correct.
So the agriculture industry has kind of picked it up. And they're starting to use that. And I've seen those sales, like farm-related, agricultural-related names sell in .ag. And I picked up 420.ag because to me, those go together.
How so? Help me make the connection.
420?
Well, I get 420, but ag, like when I think ag, I'm starting to think like livestock.
Well, why not? Why not cultivation? Why not? It's agriculture. It's crops growing. Mm-hmm. That's agriculture too, right?
That is true. That is true.
So the marijuana industry is so massive and growing. I don't know. If you grow marijuana or THC or anything like
CBD, ABC, whatever.
Exactly. But if you're growing it and you want to call it 420, but 420 is such a good term because everybody knows what 420 means. It's catchy. 420.ag to me goes together. Now look, I just bought it. I haven't sold it yet. Right? So I'm not going to talk it up too much.
As I hear keyboards right now, literally 420, right. And they're probably going over to .db.com to see what's available.
Right. So look, I'm not like pounding my chest that look at the big win because it's not a win until I sell it. Right. People often talk about the thing that they bought. It's like, you know what? That's great, except I'd much rather hear about what you sold. Because I'm not quite impressed with the thing that you spent a bunch of money on that maybe you overpaid or maybe you'll never sell. Talk to me about what you sold for a profit.
And speaking of selling, are you selling any of your names to be able to go upgrade and purchase some of the other names that are on your buying spree? Or is this, hey, this is money that's coming outside of the your domain proceeds that you're just injecting into your domain strategy?
Yeah, because I've got look, domaining for me has been a side hustle all these years, and really I've only ramped up the time I spent in the industry last year, and now it's most of my day. But it was like, I don't know, 15 minutes, 45 minutes a day, and most of that was reading the blogs. So it was always a side hustle because I've got my other businesses where I earn my income, and so now and then I took that income and I've been an angel investor for many years.
Right.
And so I've curtailed most of my angel investing and just reallocated those funds to buying names. And so I'm not liquidating anything. As a matter of fact, I have done. I did go through my portfolio and did a little portfolio hygiene, as Mike Zeiger likes to say. And I trimmed down because I still have a couple of thousand legal domains that I've had for years. Hand reg from 15, 16 years ago.
Geos, brandables, all sorts.
Yeah, geos mostly. And I had a conversation with Bruce Breger, and he thanked me for my drops. I'm like, what are you talking about? So he was following my portfolio, and I would drop names, and he'd pick them up and then resell them. And he was getting $300 to $800 per name that I was dropping. So, reading between the lines, it's Braden, stop being an idiot and dropping those names, right? And the fact is, And those, what I dropped are worse than the stuff I still have, right? I've had the better names. So I'm just not dropping anymore. We'll just sell them cheaper. We can start doing some outbound programmatically. We've got some scripts and a database of lawyers. And so we'll start outbounding those names. I just didn't bother before.
Right.
But now we will.
Well, that was going to be the next question, was about, do you do buy it now? Or are you negotiating on most of these sales that you receive inquiries on?
Yes. So everything is priced. Almost everything. My 7-figure names are not priced. Everything else is priced, including high 6 figures. And honestly, I'm not saying this is the right way to do it. It's just the way I'm doing it.
It just works.
We'll see. I just figure. I mean, the problem with pulling the prices from the 7-figure names is that I get a lot more inquiries now on those names because there's no price there. But I do have minimum offer, which people ignore, and they just submit a $50 offer for a name that has a minimum offer $1 million. So I do have to kind of go through those, but I lost my train of thought. What was your question?
At least where I was going was because Bruce was basically just getting I guess you'd say the crumbs from you dropping, but then he honed in and dialed in that it was anywhere from $350 to $850. So for me, I'm thinking, well, Braden, why not just start pricing some of those names that you were going to drop, anywhere between that $600, $700 mark, and hold it for at least 2 years.
So I'll tell you, look, the legal names I have still sell, right? And they're averaging, I don't know, $2,600 to $5,500 is kind of like the average legal name. Right. I mean, I just sold a legal name for $30,000 too. So they bounce around, but on average is kind of a few $1,000. Those are lawyers that go out looking for the name that find it. Bruce is doing outbound. And so if you take, I don't know, flcriminalattorneys.com,
right?
Or criminal attorneys. Obviously, you can narrow that down. You do a Google search for Florida criminal attorneys, and there's your list of prospective buyers. It's not like a whole world of possible buyers out there. You can narrow it down. And so you reach out to all those Florida criminal attorneys and you say, hey, I've got this name, and it's a few $100s. And some of those folks will just take a flyer on it because it's cheap enough, right? So we were just not doing that outbound. We're waiting for them to come to us.
Which may never happen.
That's the difference. So they come to us, and if they're looking for that name, they see a name and it's $3,000, they'll pull the trigger on it. But if they're not looking for the name, and you say, hey, do you want this name? Then they'll spend $500 on it.
Right. And it's like, who has the most leverage, essentially? You go to them, you kind of lose that. They come to you, you keep home team advantage, if you will. So what's been selling as of late that you've noticed about the industry?
Brandables. And partly it might be because I'm paying more attention, but look, you've got Brand Bucket, Squad Help. I mean, they're both pushing about 100,000 names each, and Brand Paw. There's a handful of others. I just see so many brandable sales now, and they're going up in value. But particularly in the sub $5,000 range, you got made up words, right? You've got hand reg names that investors have they regged 2 years ago for free, for $8, and they just sold it for $4,900. I'm seeing this a lot. I know folks that have 20,000, 30,000 names, all brandables, and they're selling names every single day. And we're talking about they're getting 50x, 100x per name.
Jeez.
And super profitable. Super, super profitable. People that'll sell. I know folks that are making $1 million a year, and their costs are like $20,000. They've got into $1 million worth of names.
That is crazy.
It's a lot of work, right? I mean, these people are working hard all day, every day. They know what they're doing. They're making lists. They understand naming conventions, and they're
out there hustling.
They're hustling.
hustling, man.
But they're out there. I mean, and the thing is that what's interesting about the Brandable thing is it's people say, oh, it's too late. It's too late to get in. All the good names are gone, which is not true because I'm buying names right now. They're just expensive. But all the people that are doing brandables, they're registering names right now and selling them tomorrow. Oh, well, on Clubhouse, literally tomorrow, but
or today.
but on the brandable marketplaces, these are pretty fresh registrations, right? I mean, if you listen, like Keith DeBoer just did his last podcast was his top 10 sales so far this year, and huge spread. And these are names, I think a bulk of his names were purchased within the last 2 years.
That's crazy.
Something like, I mean, he only talked about the 10 names, but I think 4 of the 10 were a year to 2 years old.
I say that's crazy. It's actually not surprising. And I say that because now I actually reflect upon Leanne McMahon. I think she was doing the daily sales for Dan.com when they actually had the ledger available.
Right.
And it was interesting to see some of those names that were selling were like 3, 4 days, 5 days old. And some of them were geos, geo service names that would sell. Sometimes they were just brandables. Other times, I didn't know what it was. I was just like, that's interesting that it sold for a couple hundred. Sometimes it'd be a couple thousand. And I'm like, man, they're only 3 to 5 days old. Like, what gives?
Yeah. Well, look, if you you're in Austin, right?
Right.
If you took Austin and appended it on every service word, plus.com. So let's start with home improvement. Austin flooring, Austin roofing, Austin windows, Austin concrete, Austin. Right. So you could get a list, and I don't know how you take that service list and just append every city onto it. .com and register all those. And by the way, this is how the successful folks are doing it, right? They're using scripts, and they're doing it in bulk, not one at a time. You think of a word and then you go think of something different. But if you take and you can hand register a whole bunch of names like that, let's say you hand register 100 like that, right? You put them up at 100x, right, or 50x,
right?
100 of those names, one of those names is going to sell pretty quickly. Right. Not all of them. But if you have a 1 to 2% sell-through rate next year, you're going to be profitable on that list. It's just logical. Like, those will sell. And if you do outbound, you're like Riz or Yogi or any of these other guys that are hustling and doing outbound. You have Austin plumber. You ping every plumber in Austin. Good chance one of those might be interested.
And what's interesting about this example is I just happen to know offhand that there are 14 different states with the city named Austin. So even if you take that example, like in most cases for some folks, they may only have one city or two cities or two states with the same city name. But in this case, Austin is, like I said, there's 14 different cities. So I'm like, well, that's 14 different markets as far as I'm concerned that you could take your example and at least try to go and say, well, there might be a plumber in Austin, Minnesota. There may be a plumber in Austin, Texas, or plumbers.
Yeah, didn't Mike Seigers, I'll mention him again, he had BainbridgeContractor.com, I think.
He had Bainbridge Builders.
You remember this?
Yeah, and it happened it fooled around and it was somebody else's name. It was their last name. It was their surname.
Yeah. It didn't, like, he lives on Bainbridge Island and did not sell to somebody on his island.
Right. Exactly. The guy was like out of California or something like that. If I remember the story correctly, but yeah.
You never know. It's funny. I just this morning I was looking at this name that I had sold back in 2018, buzzeddriving.com. Yeah.
Wait. Oh my God. Buzzed driving.
Yeah, it was a hand reg. I had seen a sign that said, I have a lot of DUI names and legal names. Right. And it said buzz driving is drunk driving. I was like, well, that could be a thing, right? And so I went out and registered buzzedriving.com. It was available. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I don't know how long ago it was, but I sold it 3 years ago. It was a hand reg. I sold it for $5,500. So wow. Decent, right? Doesn't matter how long I held it. Like,
right.
A few years. And so, I'd assumed it like a DUI lawyer bought it, right? That would make sense. I just looked it up. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. It goes to, its abbreviation is NHTSA, NHTSA.gov. It goes to their buzz driving campaign at a government website. I just saw that this morning.
Huh.
I was like, what? So the point being, like, sometimes you think, now obviously it's still like the, buzz driving, drunk driving, but
Right.
the context is the same, but it went to a different buyer.
Totally. And that could be the same thing with Austin. It could be somebody with the last name Austin and they just happen to be a plumber or,
Exactly.
concrete or whatever. Yeah. And that is, and I guess that's just the thing. It's because you mentioned like doing the bulk registration, and I've heard of folks doing it, but I've heard them doing it around promos. They'll find a promo.
Right.
And then, they'll spend like $300 and they may get a couple hundred names. What's interesting to me is for some of those folks, they don't renew those names after the initial registration. Yeah. They're like, I'll spend, $300 on a couple hundred names and set a price, and whatever I'm making that year, I'll be satisfied with it. I'm like, geez, that seems like spraying and praying to me, but
yeah,
I don't know. They're successful.
But if you've got a list, right, of all the service keywords, and we're just using that as an example, but a proven list of words that you can append with another word, like it's proven, like so plumber and plumbing and roofer and roofing.
Right.
Let's use those four, and you append all the top 100 cities. You're going to sell some of them this year, and you're going to sell some more next year. So why would you drop them? Right. I mean, none of those are bad.
Right. Well, I mean, if you, but the reality is, let's say if somebody's listening and they're coming into the industry and they go and do the very exact thing that we said and they don't have a sell, then what? It's like, okay, well, is it a bad strategy, or is it just you had bad timing, or, who knows? Because I did it, and the reason I say that is because I did it with health, basically health.com names. So city plus health.com. And I wound up purchasing, I believe it was probably about $800 worth. And granted, I did sell 2 names, but it was just like, I looked at the traffic on some of them, and it was maybe one unique every other month, but no other inquiries. And I was like, I'm letting them go. And now obviously I did let them go. And then I did see a few in auction that I kind of kicked myself for letting go. But, but it's just like, man, you really don't, it's like, you really don't know. You could have just been in a perfect season, perfect place, right time, right season, that things lined up for you.
I don't know. I don't know. I think you can know, particularly when you're talking about a kind of a portfolio play like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you picked health because you knew it was a strong keyword. And if you sold 2 of them, I don't know what you sold them for, but the chances are you sold 2 names, you got your more than $800 back.
Right. Well, so one of them inadvertently because of COVID. And I forgot. I listed it for like, I want to say $1,200 because I was playing with pricing, and then COVID happened. And then like a week after lockdown, boom, I get this Afternic email, and I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to go back and adjust all of my pricing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but you're right. I mean, I did, but at the same time, I was like 2 years, that's basically 2 years into the journey though. So I didn't sell anything the first year. Didn't do any outbound, and then the second year sold the 2 names. So,
yeah, but now you could have then taken that portfolio and put it up on NameJet, and you would have picked up some more revenue, or some other auction site.
Right, because most of these names were purchased and pointing to Dan.com, so one of their landing pages. So
yeah, and the other variable is, while health is a good name, the city, the geos that you chose, we don't know how great those were. If it's austinhealth.com, great. But if it's, I don't know, poughkeepsiehealth.com,
right. They were in the top 150 US cities. based on population.
Okay. Yeah.
And so
I usually do like top 100, not 150. And I don't know where you draw that line to.
right.
That's too small.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to look at also like population, because I would look and say something like, okay, well, if it's more than I originally started at 75,000, and then I just start looking at some of those cities, and I was like, man, all right, give me what the growth has been over the last decade in terms of population growth. And if it's all like a downward hill, it's like, nah, stay away from those. So I moved from there and then decided to go with 110,000, just because I have another city that I've been doing quite well with, Round Rock, Texas. And they're roughly about 125,000 in population. So I said, okay, well, I've been doing good with those names, but so let's just take any population with 100,000 or more, and let's just see what happens. And some of those I did have to go do research on, and I did see a downward trend that they were, they may have been once 140,000 people and they were down to 120,000. I'm like, well, let's not go that direction. Let's try to at least catch something on the upward swing.
I mean, on that, the investors that are really, so you're looking at population, but you can dig even deeper. So I'm going to use Sandpoint, Idaho as an example. I don't know if the population is not a lot, but I can tell you that there's so much growth there. Like, they're cutting trees down, they're building houses, because there's a lot of land out in Sandpoint. And so housing starts are through the roof. If you wanted service, if you were going to register service names like concrete, sandpointconcrete.com, for example. And I just made this up, right? So I don't know if it exists, if somebody has it, I don't know. Somebody's looking it up right now. But, the thing is, you've got a lot of building happening in Sandpoint. Maybe not a lot of population, but definitely a lot of building. This part I know. So you're going to need plumbers and concrete and roofers and all of those other things. Whether you need like health clinics, I don't know.
Right.
Maybe not yet, but right now there's building. So maybe sandpointbuilders.com is good, like Bainbridge.
Yeah.
But sandpointhealth.com isn't. I don't know. But I'm just saying you can continue kind of going down the rabbit hole and uncovering more information. And if you look at growth and you look at housing starts and you look at that kind of data, then you can go take that path, registering names.
Right. And I see something like that in terms of, plumbers, plumbing, electricians, now roofing, man, that's one that I haven't had too much success with. And it seems like it's more so because of all the variations, because you could say roof, roofs, roofer, roofers, roofing.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, shoot, that's too many variations. So I typically leave something like that alone. Not to say that you can't make money, because you can there. But then another one that makes me cringe or to hear is like lawn care. That's the same thing. It's like you could say yard care, you could say yards, you could say lawns, you could say grass. There's so many different variations in terms of the geo service. And so those are ones that I'm like, stay away from.
Well, people seem to like legal names, right? They think that lawyers have a lot of money and everybody does well with legal names. Not necessarily true. But how many variations are there to a legal name? A lot. For example, I mentioned FloridaCriminalAttorney.com earlier, right?
Right.
You got Florida and you got FL. You got Florida Criminal Attorney, attorneys, lawyers. All have the same value, honestly. And then, of course, multiply that with FL and Florida.
FL, FLA.
Maybe. And then you've got FloridaCriminalLaw.com, laws.com, lawfirm.com, lawfirms.com. There are a lot of variations.
Right.
So maybe those are kind of long tail, right? They're not quite as good. But FloridaCriminalAttorneys.com, FloridaCriminalLawyer.com, lawyers, attorneys, all four of those, exactly the same value. And
you at least get $450 for them?
What's that?
I said you at least get $450 for them. At least, if we're just saying at minimum on names like that. And obviously that's probably going to be based on population, I would imagine, of the number of that type of lawyer in that area.
Yeah. I mean, criminal is a good practice area. So that's higher value. Florida is a big state. That's higher value.
Right.
So, you're up in the thousands of dollars for that domain, even though there's a bunch of variations because there's a lot of buyers. But now you go into a little city, how many potential buyers are there? There's a lot more Florida criminal attorneys in Florida than there are, I don't know, probate lawyers in Poughkeepsie, right? So that drives value too. So it just depends on not just variations, but the number of potential buyers.
That, and I mean, like you said, and it's so many different just nuances and varying factors that you have to consider. But I also think that people get blinded by, oh my God, it's available. I've got to buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do your research. So, I mean, when I look at a name, let's say I've got a oneword.com that is pitched to me, and I get them pitched all the time. I look at what's going on with the other names, not just, how many names are registered, how many extensions are registered. So, okay, great. It's got, 91 registered extensions. But what's happening with those? I want to see what's developed. And first thing I'll do is, even though .com is king, what's happening with the .net, the org, the co, and the IO. And just over this weekend, two pretty good oneword.coms I looked at. Literally the net, org, IO, and co were available and for sale. Now, to me, that drives down the value because if somebody wants that particular SLD, there's a lot of cheaper options out there.
Totally.
Right? Now, if all those options are taken and they're developed, not for sale, but developed by other companies, that's a different story. So now the person that names their company that word, they don't have a lot of choice.
Right.
They got to spend for the .com, right? Or append it with, with some other word. But that's meaningful information, not just how many are registered. How many registered does show the popularity of that word, but it's not the full picture. You got to look at the full picture. What's going on with all those other ones?
Yeah, because it could be as simple in that example that you gave to where the .com, let's say it's not available, but the others are available. Well, you could be that person that registered all the other one. And then he goes, okay, well, yeah, all those extensions are registered. Are they of great value? Well, not if they're all owned by one person.
Yeah. I mean, the other option is, which I considered on one of these names, is, well, maybe I'll just go out and roll up all those other ones so that when someone wants to name their company, that they got to come to me because I have all the variables, right? And I can kind of make the market, right? I price it up, and then they can choose whichever extension. It's like Tide, Bold, and Cheer. Procter & Gamble doesn't care which one you buy, as long as you buy one of them.
Right.
I thought about doing that, but it didn't make sense. It was too much money to wrap up into a word that is not all that popular.
Yeah.
Because there's no other companies using it, or very few.
And so, Braden, so you're on the spree of buying these oneword.coms. Now, do you still do any hand registering or no?
No, I haven't had reg anything in a long time. I mean,
what's a long time? Like years, last month?
No, probably years. But I feel like, I think a couple of years ago, I had bought a oneword.com and the .org was available for hand reg or something like that. So I picked it up. Something like that. But no, I don't really hand reg. I will take a look at what's happening with the other extensions, what I consider the top 5, co, net, org, co, and IO.
Right.
That's me. Other people look at AIs and other extensions, but I look at those. And every once in a while, I'll pick up a name, and there'll be one of those that'll be just available for hand reg. So I'll grab it. And the reason why I'll pick it up is because, look, the vast majority of people that are looking for a domain name think it's $8. And so when they discover that the name, the .com name that they want is really $350,000, I can say, look, if it's not in your budget for this name, I've got this name. I've got the .net that you can have for a fraction of the price. Because I figure I've kind of got this built-in potential buyer because they're coming to me for the SLD, right? Because that's the name of their business, or they want to name their business that. So I can kind of give them this alternative for much cheaper. I mean, oftentimes that's too expensive too, because I'm not showing them anything that's $10.
So have you had situations to where they purchased a non.com and then worked their way up to purchasing the .com from you?
Not that I sold them the non-com and then they came back to me for the com. That hasn't happened. I mean, I've certainly sold the com upgrade, lots and lots of times.
Right.
There was a time where I'll tell you this story. I had sold parsley.com for $400,000 to a guy, and he had this app. I don't honestly remember what the app was for, but it was called Parsley. And he was making payment. He had paid 10%, and then I saw Parsley.app on the market, and it was $1,200. And I thought about buying it and then upselling the guy. And I thought, he's got the .com, but he should probably have it defensively. He's already paid me $40,000 towards the, on this payment plan. So I sent him an email and I said, look, this is on the market. It's $1,200. It's probably worth picking it up defensively because you've got an app called Parsley, and so you should have Parsley.app. And he's like, oh, good thinking, thanks. And guess what happened the next month when his payment was due?
What?
No payment showed up. And so I reached out to him, hey man, what's going on with your payment? He's like, well, so thanks to you, we actually decided to go in a different direction. And in order to save $360,000, we're going to use Parsley.app instead. So I screwed myself on that one.
That was a costly lesson. That left a mark.
Yeah. Upside is I got $40,000 for free. So I can't complain too much, but I mean, I would have much rather continue paying, and I got $400. So it was just something to think about. I thought I'd just do the guy a solid, and why would he walk away from $40,000? But apparently, it was worth doing.
And I guess is it still, I guess, active, or what's the? You said it was Parsley app.
Parsley.app.
Parsley.app. Huh.
I don't know. All I know is Parsley.com is now once again for sale.
It's like that much we do know. We do know. Well, man, wrapping up, like, what is there to look forward to? Anything that investors should keep their eye out on for 2021, 2022? Obviously, we won't be getting together in person. It doesn't look like it, rather.
I think there's going to be a couple of small get-togethers this year. I've heard about a couple. The ICA is planning a get-together in the summer. I'm in a domain group that's talking about getting together at some point, also over the summer. I don't know if there's anything going to happen towards the end of the year. I do believe NamesCon is going to happen in January.
Right.
Back in your neck of the woods.
Under new management. Well, I guess.
Actually, under same management. New ownership, same management.
Yeah, new ownership, same management. That's correct.
But NamesCon Budapest, the European NamesCon, so that was July. That got canceled. Yeah, so we'll see if something else comes up. But I don't know of anything that's gonna happen this year other than these small get-togethers. Right.
And it'll be interesting to see anyway. Just once we do get back to in person, will there be a hybrid sort of, I guess, offering? I don't know. One will probably think so, but who knows?
Yeah, I would think. But I think if it is indeed next year, I think people are just going to be jonesing to get out of the house and get out there and see all their old friends. I mean, I can't wait to get back to a conference and, see all my old buddies and, hug everybody, see them in the flesh.
I agree, especially after we take this second dose of this vaccination come this Thursday. We'll be able to do anything. We're invincible.
Yeah, sort of.
Or so we think.
2 weeks. You got to wait 2 weeks, man.
Nobody told me I had to wait 2 weeks. What do you mean?
You got to wait 2 weeks afterwards. Oh, yeah, that's when you fully, yeah.
And as Braden sees me out partying late Thursday night, like, you didn't listen. You did not listen.
Takes a minute. Takes 2 weeks for it to fully get you inoculated. And it's not even fully, still like 99 point something.
Exactly. And then I guess we'll have another round at some point in the future.
Well, they anticipate like 95%, at least for Moderna and Pfizer. And now they're saying it's like 99.9. That's pretty good.
That's real good.
Yeah. But then there's going to be variants too. We don't know what's going to happen with those variants.
That is true.
So we might need boosters every year.
I hope not.
Well, the pharmaceutical companies are hoping for that.
I hope not. No. But we got to do what we got to do. Yeah, if you want to be in the land of the living, that is, for sure.
Well, let's just hope that those pharmaceutical companies decide to buy my vaccination-related domains.
Yeah, well, funny enough now, and you always gotta watch these, and I side-eyed it. There is a domain that I have, marovi.com. I guess Moravi, something like that. Received $1 million offer. Surely it can't be real. I mean, it came through Dan. I'm like, well, certainly it can't be real. And I accepted it. I just accepted. I was like, let's just see what happened. Nothing so far, but we'll see.
I get $1 million offers all the time.
We'll see.
It's nonsense. I ignore them.
Which part of me is like, man, how in the world? That's one thing that I wish probably the most for the industry is things like this, like combating this sort of behavior. But I mean, what are you going to do? Ask somebody to put down, 20%, 30%, I guess.
Yeah. Proof of funds.
Yeah. So who knows? We'll see. If it happens, it happens. You'll be the first to know about it.
Well, I think nobody's going to hear from you ever again.
Oh, really, Braden? Really? No. Matter of fact, if it happens, I'll let you interview me.
All right, I'll do it.
He's like, game on.
I'm here with Alvin Brown, who just moved to Tahiti.
Braden, you weren't supposed to give away my location. Well, I guess we can edit that out. No. Oh, well, man. Well, it has been fun. Glad to have you back on the show again, my man.
I'm glad.
Even though you thought I stiffed you, you thought I didn't like you anymore. My gosh.
Well, I had texted you, and then I didn't hear back. I was like, this guy is not responding to my text. This is a long time ago, a couple months ago. And I was like, what's going on with Alvin not getting back to me? And then you were on Clubhouse that night. And I was like, Alvin, I texted you this morning. And you're like, you did? I'll get back to you. And then you didn't. I'm like, what the hell?
Well, hold on. So there's a bit more to the story.
I'm going to tell your audience what happened. Apparently, you've got 2 cell phones, and one is at your office, and the battery's dead, and whatever. You don't use it anymore, and you had a different number, and you got all straightened out. And then next time I text you with that other number, you were Johnny on the spot.
Yes. And that given weekend, my best friend's mother had passed away. So we were actually en route there, but still no excuse.
No, but I was like, I was sending follow-up texts. I'm like, did we break up? What happened?
Exactly. Well, hey, we're back together again. We
should be.
For now. No. But no kidding. If it does go through, hey, hopefully everybody, you better be rooting that it goes through so that we get this interview. And God knows who knows where Braden would take an interview. Who knows?
You never know. You don't know. It's true.
Oh my goodness. Well, Braden, appreciate it. Thank you again, my man. And like I said, we'll talk next time.
Right on.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Kickstart Commerce, where we share search marketing and domain name strategies to help grow your business. Please subscribe to this podcast via iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or Podbean. Last but not least, please visit kickstartcommerce.com to subscribe to the newsletter sharing tips and tricks about the disciplines of digital strategy. Thanks, and that's all for now.